Thanks everybody for taking some time out of your day to join us. As mentioned, my name is Joe Eikenseer, and I'm really here just to help out with some of the preamble and the closing type of things. Scott's going to be handling all the fun stuff in the middle that you're really here for. And as we're talking about it, as Ashley mentioned, please get any questions that you might have into that Q&A panel, into the chat panel, wherever. But if you're doing that, get a little bit of maybe description in there. Because if you were saying like Scott's doing something totally awesome or whatever, and you say, wait, what was that? We won't have any idea of what that was. So some description in there so we can be much more specific to the questions as you're going along. So to that end, I'll go ahead and on the next slide, Scott, the types of things that we'll be talking about through today. A little bit of the background of what brought us to the point of having this webcast, this conversation, and then what can we do about it? So it's digital project delivery, which means, yeah, we're going to be talking about Autodesk BIM Collaborate Pro and a bunch of other things in the ecosystem around it. But what can we do to be using that particular tool or any of the tools around it better? That's really our focus. We've got the tools presumably already in hand. How do you get more out of that investment? So I'll be talking about the things leading up to that. Scott will take us through a little bit of a tour of here are some things, not everything, there's not enough time for that, but here are some things that you may or may not be using inside BIM Collaborate Pro and how that could have a better impact on what you're doing. Some things that IMAGINiT is doing outside or around of BIM Collaborate Pro to help out with productivity, just being more efficient with the time that you have. And then closing up with some things and some ideas of how you might be able to leverage IMAGINiT to make some of those improvements. From a background side then, if we go on to the next slide through here, the background to this, in my opinion, so this is a little bit of a Joe Eikenseer getting on a soapbox and talking on a street corner. A lot of this comes back to 2020 when everybody started shutting down, deciding we had to work from home because COVID was coming around, and that's how we were addressing it. There was the ability before then, and I've been doing presentations since like 2012, somewhere around there, of different ways that we could work remotely or some sort of hybrid remote or in-office solutions as people just traveled around the country doing things. But 2020 hit, and suddenly everybody kind of sort of had to do it. There wasn't really much of an option around that. We had to figure out, how do we work from home? Fortunately, for a lot of us, what is now BIM Collaborate Pro was then BIM 360 in different forms and names, was available and was exactly that thing we needed to allow people to work from home. And I couldn't tell you how many different groups we worked with, Scott worked with, to get them set up in this online live collaboration world where everybody could have their computer in their what was now the home office, might be your bedroom, might be who knows what, but the home office area, kitchen table, and doing work with that live internet connection. And we got it running, we got our projects into the cloud, we can do file open, we can sync to central, okay, good, let's get work done, because nothing really seems like it's slowed down in there. But I would tend to say, again, personal opinion through there, it was a lot of things that were just band-aiding it a little bit. So next slide. When we took what was a bad situation, got ourselves to the quickest possible, minimal viable environment that we could have, and started working with it. Found out that it worked. There were some hiccups along the way, sure, but it worked. And we settled in, largely speaking. Next slide. When we started settling in, there was some things that we had to worry about as we're able to open and sync to central, that's good. But what about those files that maybe were back on your home, or not your home, your office file server? How do we get access to those? Do you have a VPN to get to the file server that all of your other things were at? Because maybe you didn't have all of your files up in the Autodesk cloud, it was just the Revit files. What about other design applications that aren't Revit or AutoCAD and needed to have access to these other things? What about people that are outside of your company or inside of your company? How are we doing red lines now that we're not standing over a table together, marking things up collaboratively in that fashion. And all of those things had a change on what we're doing for overall project delivery. So even though we might have been taking a look at this of here's just the quick, easy way that we can start working remotely in 2020, starting-ish around then, but all sorts of other things started intruding on us. And we had to find this right balance, which was unique per company, of the people that you have, the technology process, the nice little Venn diagram down there, of what things do we need to put into place to make all this work. And again, we've had a whole series of webcasts about all these different types of things over the last decade or so. And hey, check our archive of different webcasts and things that we've done in the past. It's all there. All of this gets blown forward a little bit further and got even more complicated as we're moving on. Next slide. When we're getting into saying, well, we all know how these things work. We might start using some of the additional tools. We might have just gotten a VPN for the other tools. Things were working, but broadly speaking, I'm not going to address every single bullet point in here, but people got used to that and started changing how some of the projects are delivered. The demand for work and being able to do things remotely didn't slow down any. There's a continued question of, are people moving into city centers or are people moving out of city centers? And now that we're 3 years later, are people moving back to city centers or staying out where they are? There's a lot of things that are coming in and having an impact on what we do, where we do it, and then we've got just technology doing what technology does. Everybody's talking about AI, and if you're not talking about AI, you're talking about cloud, probably in some form or another. The bullet points we've got over on the right-hand side have a lot of terms in there that certainly overlap a lot. Artificial intelligence, machine learning. Where's the line between those things? And all of these are becoming additional factors and stressors on what we're doing and how we're going about to do it. With all of these things in place, we'll say senior leadership in your company and our company, senior leadership in your clients' organizations, next slide, are having some different expectations of what they want to get out of, broadly speaking, us in projects. Even more of an emphasis on budget constraints. There's the uncertainty of the global financial markets that we're going through. It's just the waves that constantly ebb and flow. We're hitting things. We've got to make sure that the larger the project is, the more we've got to concern ourselves with cost control, scope control, things along those lines. We need to try and do what we can to deliver better. And people are looking at all those things on the previous slide of AI, ML, cloud, blah, 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 and saying these things are out there. That means we must be able to deliver projects better digitally, right? That's the assumption. And in some cases, that's going to be a fair assumption, perhaps, but it's not always an easy button to go through those assumptions. So that's all the background that gets us to where are we today? What's the reason we're having this conversation? There's a lot of forces that are impacting us. There's a lot of things that are going to be realistic and unrealistic expectations, perhaps, that are facing us in our day-to-day business. And if you have these tools available, BIM Collaborate Pro, the ecosystem around it, are you doing what we can to get the most out of that tool to try and meet these different goals? So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Scott to take us from here and start with a little bit of a review of what are these tools, where could we be doing things different, better? So Scott?
All right, thank you, Joe. So of course, we are looking at BIM Collaborate Pro here. And I think a lot of architectural firms right now will use this tool and they use it as the way to share their models. And that's it. And really, this is meant to be a holistic project management tool. There are so many tools in there that are not just about sharing the model. They're really sharing the data, creating that, what's almost become cliche now, which is that central source of truth. But BIM Collaborate Pro, even just Docs is a project management solution, but BIM Collaborate Pro really brings it to the next level. And some of the new features I'm going to go through here are certainly going to be part of that. But when you look at BIM Collaborate Pro, it includes Docs. It can view 50 different file formats. That's one of its superpowers, is that it can view just about all the well-known design forms or file types out there. They don't have to be just Autodesk. And of course, it works with Revit, Civil 3D, Plant 3D. You can basically work from home. Your model lives in the cloud. You can work from the office, from the home, job site, Trello, whatever. Design collaboration, of course, is that part that allows us to collaborate those models and link them together, especially in the Revit side of things. And model coordination is, of course, the automated clash detection, and you can group your clashes and coordinate your issues and assign them to people and make sure they're being done. So looking and kind of focusing somewhat on the more of the project management and what I feel like are some either new or even underutilized tools here. There's, of course, Bridge, which is not a brand new tool, but using it for the design collaboration workflow is very new and incredibly powerful. Publish to Field allows me in the model coordination to take a very controlled view of the model and push that view into Docs so that someone could pull a tablet up, go to a job site, and have access to a very specific model with just the things I want to be displayed in it very easily. We have the ability to do very deep searches. So now one of the things you want to have all your data in that central source of truth, but you also want to be able to find the data. So with the new enhanced searching tools and the ability to create saved searches so that you can share the search with other people is really a nice feature here. And also another really powerful feature is, of course, the correspondence tool, which is now the ability to track the emails in a project. So if we take a look at that first one here, we're looking at Autodesk Bridge. So originally Bridge was designed so that you could bridge sheets between Autodesk build projects or folders across any Docs project, right? That allowed you to share and automatically update data from one project in someone else's project. So people could be working in two completely independent projects, so your data is secure in your environment, yet the critical data could be shared between them, right? And that was a really powerful way to work. And then they did make it so that you could also, if you were using 23.1 or above, if you had a work shared model in a folder, you could share that folder with someone else, and then someone could link the work shared model from the shared folder into their model. And then the biggest change here is they've now introduced Bridge for design collaboration. So now what can happen is kind of what everyone really wants, right? I want to be able to work on my own personal, very secure project, keep my model in my personal hub, and then only share my design packages with the extended team seamlessly. And that has finally been enabled here. This, to me, was kind of that last thing inside of Autodesk Build to really make it, almost not quite perfect, but close to it, right? So right now in this project, I am the host, and I'm requiring that my MEP consultant and my structural consultant work in my environment. I host it, and they have to host their model in my environment. When I go over here to Docs, I have appropriate folders for my teams right here, and my architectural team, my team is here. The civil engineer, the MEP engineer, I've given him space to work here. I've given my structural engineer space to work here, but their model lives in my host. I could cut their access off to it. Well, with the new bridging tool, when I go into here, so this is my architectural firm, right? And I go over here to the architectural firm, and I see my design models, and the only model that lives here is mine. You note that there is no MEP or structural firm here yet. When I go to model coordination, or design collaboration, I should say, I open my timeline, and all of a sudden I see internal is my model here. And now, even though you notice that those teams weren't resident in my project, yet I still see the structural outside environment and the MEP environment here, see external partners. So this MEP engineer right here, now I'm switching, it looks, you can barely see me switch here. This is the MEP engineer's site, and he has his internal one as MEP, and he's bridged to the external architectural and structural. So again, if I go to docs here in the MEP project, the MEP engineer, completely different hub, completely different project, set up whatever way they want. When they go in here, they only have their folder here, but the shared packages folder, the shared folder, right, shows the shared models from the other team. This is huge. So now everyone works in their own completely secure project. They can fully utilize the timeline tool, yet still be within their environment. So the MEP engineer can create a package here, create package, create one, and it would immediately show, once they share the package, of course, right? That would immediately show on everyone else's timeline up top here. So as soon as a consultant, so if the MEP engineer creates a new package right here and then actually shares it, I get an email notification that a package has been shared, and the architect would come up here and he would see the new package up there, and then he could accept it and work the same way you've always worked in this environment. But this is huge. So now what you do is you go to Bridge, you invite another project into this one. You just need someone's email address from the other project, invite them in. And then once you turn that on, I would come in here and I would go and I would say, okay, I've invited the MEP engineer and the structural engineer, or they have invited me into their projects as well. And so they're now available. And I say, yes, I want to share my architectural team packages right here with my MEP consultant and with my structural consultant in their own hub. So this is amazing. I can't believe Autodesk got this right. That first try, the first release of this, it works pretty well. So again, this only works for Revit 23.1 and above, so 23 and 24. If you're using those versions of Revit, you can use this workflow now. You can have your own private hub, keep all your data, issues, everything completely secure. Even if all of a sudden the architect decides not to work with you anymore, he can't cut you off from your data, because your data is actually living in your own environment, totally secure. I am thoroughly impressed with this tool. This to me was one of the biggest releases that really wasn't talked about that much. I don't feel like Autodesk is talking enough about it, because this was, if there was a complaint about the Collaborate Pro environment, this was it, was that I had to host my data in someone else's environment. Not that you couldn't get back to your data if they cut you off, but this is great. I'm very impressed with this tool. So I was pretty happy when I saw all this happen. And I tested it out and said, this works great. All right, so let's move on here. So another kind of handy tool here is publish the field. Okay, what this allows me to do is in the model coordination module, you create views for clashing. And if you want, you can take the clashing, that view that you created, and publish it to docs into a folder for the field, for example, so that someone, they don't have to be on the field, they could be in the office, they just want to take a look at the model, or they just have a docs license, they don't need Collaborate Pro, or you could share that to a folder, and then someone out in the field could pull their phone, their tablet up and open the model and walk around in it from anywhere. So again, I would go over here to my model coordination module, and these are the views that I've created, right? I created a HVAC versus structure versus electrical here. And I'm doing my clash detection right here to find out, if there are any clashes with any of these things. So anything electrical, no. HVAC, yeah. All types of clashes with the ducts and the structure here, right? But if I go back to the actual models right here, it's just a viewer, right? This is just all the models I have here. And I wanted to share this view with someone so that they can see this on their tablet, their whatever, right? I have another one here, master coordination view. So right here, I created a special view where I just brought all the models together into one comprehensive model that I want others to be able to see, right? So right now, if you just have a model up there, it's hard for you to link in other things to allow them to see it. So I wanted to create this master model that anyone who I've given access to a very specific folder can walk around the model, they can view things, whatever they need to do, right? I want to share this specific model. They can go in and create sections right here and explore the model any way they want. So again, really powerful tool to be able to share this with someone. So what you do now is I can take this view and save it to docs. Well, I just need to republish it there because I have some things that are out of date. But I would hit save to docs, and this is the last time I've saved these ones to docs here. And if I pick that model right there, let's move my screen out of the way here. So I can take a look at the HV versus structure, and I can save it to docs here. I can see the last time it was published to docs right there was, last year there when I did that, and when I was created, and same here. So this one right here, oops, I didn't want to open it that far. This is just conduits versus foundations. So this one was shared yesterday right there. See, I can click on that, and I shared this to docs yesterday at 1946, 24-hour time, right? And I could, open it from here if I want to, but here's what happens now. So a docs user, they don't have Collaborate Pro, they just have the common license. Anyone with an AC collection already has a docs license, right? Field models. And this is where the views get saved. So now anyone who's just a docs license could come in here and open up the model and view it. And of course, they've now enabled this on docs so that if you're out in the field, you can pull up the docs project on your tablet using the Plan Grid Build app, and you can navigate the files area, including 3D models now, right? So that's huge. So now I can just create very specific models, just pipes, just framing, however way I want it to look, and share it with anyone, create different iterations of it right from that model coordination tab, which is really what that's for. That's for pulling your models together and sharing them in certain ways for both clash detection and just viewing, however you want to do that. So again, really great feature, super simple to use. You just take the view you've created. I mean, you may actually be going in there and creating views that, for instance, that view I showed you up here, which is that one which had all the models in it, that's not anything I would do actual clash detection in. But I created this as a master coordination model that I could share with other people, right? So again, so that they could see the collaborated model. So again, that's what that's for, just sharing that data. Another thing here, I'm very impressed with this, is just the searching capabilities have been enhanced, but now you can actually save them. So if this is going to be an effective project management tool, you need to be able to find your documents, right? And you don't want to have to just do that endless searching through folders trying to find things, right? So as long as you know the name of whatever you want, you can go right into the system here. So I'm in Docs, and I open Search right here. See, there's the search panel. And I could do very powerful searches here, right? So right here, if I go to search, I could look for a keyword like MEP. Do I want to search just a current folder, all the folders, including subfolders? Do I want to look for content? So what this button will allow you to do is only within PDFs, mind you, it will search for the word or the term MEP in any document that is a PDF document. So this allows you to search at least PDF files. And if you look on the bottom here, you can keep adding filters, right? So I can look for types, file statuses, current versions, only version 2 files, only things that have been updated. I can look at custom attributes here, and I can turn on a search for any types of custom attributes that I might want to have in here. Classification, scale, test, custom one, things like that, right? So I can go in and I can, search for custom attributes. I can come up here and turn on other things. What other attributes do I want to use? What attributes do I don't maybe want to use, and so on, right? But the real power here is not only can I just do that search, but I can save the search. So I look over here. I already have a saved search. I want to search for the word MEP in any file name. So it goes through. Here's all the things, folders, and files that have the word MEP in it. Okay, I'll look at another saved search. I'm going to look for the word bakery inside of any document that's in the system. So searching for that term bakery in the file name, but it's also including any terms bakery in the PDF itself. So I found the file name bakery here, and in here it says content match. See that little icon indicates, hey, there's matching content. So when I go into the file here and I do a search now for bakery, there's 4 results. And of course I can quickly go to those now, and there they are. So, how many times are you trying to look for a certain keyword in a document, maybe a note list as well, right? Or plans. This is a really useful tool. So now I can save the search, which gets saved with the project. And the next most powerful thing here is, hey, I'm going to take this MEP one that is a now personal search, and I'm going to share it. And I'm going to allow everyone in this project, or only certain team members or roles or companies, maybe just for people in my company, I am going to share the search and save it. So now everyone in my company who goes into Docs will come in here and they will look under the saved searches and look under shared here, and they will see the saved searches that they want to pull up, and they can just come up here and of course run this, right? So this again is a really powerful tool. It allows you to find your content. And another little enhancement here too is that if you didn't already know this, once you put a file up into Autodesk Docs here, it's literally here forever. If I delete a file, it doesn't actually delete the file. It just drops it into the deleted items here that only the administrators have access to. But all these files in here, they're here forever. You can't empty the trash. Now only administrators have access to it. And the problem was if you tried to search for something that you deleted, it would only search the folder. You'd have to know what folder it was in. Well, now when I use search here, it's been expanded to all folders. So I can even find things that I accidentally or purposely deleted and then restore it. So this search and filter has been, not the save search, mind you, but now when I'm looking for something, I can look in the deleted items, but search all the deleted folders now. Another huge and really powerful advancement here. So again, really, again, on that project management side, right, you need to be able to store your data and you need to be able to find your data on a project, right? It's a very important aspect of this. Another brand new tool is probably less than about a month old now, and this has been a long time coming and very much in demand by a lot of people over the years have asked for this. So we finally now have the ability to track all the project email within the project. So you can archive existing correspondence. So even if you got halfway through a project and said, oh, I'd like to take all the emails about this project. So you go into your folder, you take it all, and you forward all those emails to the project, and they get archived. They get part of the project, right? You can generate new emails from within the product. So instead of talking about that, let's just go ahead and jump over to it here. So we'll close that down here. There we go. So this is the correspondence tool. It's available under design collaboration and model coordination. Is not a docs tool, mind you, see? So the correspondence tool is part of Collaborate Pro. It's also part of Autodesk Build. So I go into design collaboration or model coordination, and I have my correspondence tool. And what happens here is the tool will create a project email address, and it's right here, file from email. And there it is. So it gives it the name of the project with the, kind of a weird number in there to make the email unique. And then I can copy this, and then I could open up an email program, paste it or add it to my contacts and call it project, big box food mart project emails, right? That way, and I could CC all my email conversations with the project. So I can have an external email conversation with anyone, but as long as I'm copying the project or CCing the project, copies of that will be stored inside the project. Or I can start here right now. I have emails that I've essentially either forwarded in here or have already started, right? But I could also create an email from here, subject, send an email to someone in the project. So that it's easy. And here's the important part. You can invite new members to the project if you're an administrator, but here's the nice thing. I can also send an email to a non-project member. So if I want to send an email to someone who doesn't need to be in the project, but I want to track the email conversations with them in the project, I can come in here, create a new member. I put an email address in, get full name, and create it, and it gets added to the project just as an email that I can use. It's an outside member, right? Discard that. So right here, if I look in this is the second email that's come in. It was a HVAC equipment addendum 3. Someone emailed someone. I listed this as a private correspondence. So that means only myself and the others who are addressed in the email can see it. No one else can see it. So right here, correspondence are visible for admins, creators, and recipients. Check as private to restrict the visibility to the creator and the recipients only. Not even admins can see it. So right here, I have an email conversation, a single email that came in, and I can reply right here to the email and send it back to the person, but it will be tracked here. Another key thing is with this email, I can actually do things as I'm going to take the status of this email and make it open, ongoing, or closed. So this is still an open email. It requires a resolution. And I want to make sure that this email gets resolved, right? Or someone was asking a question about the HVAC equipment, right? So now I could go to references here, and if it's basically Autodesk Build, not Build, sorry, I meant to say ABC Pro, I can attach another file or to it, or an issue to this, right? Now, if I'm using Autodesk Build, because I have Build enabled here, I could then attach this to RFI, submittals, photos, assets, forms, schedule, even cost items. But that way they're related to those things. So I could use an email to actually generate an issue. If I go back here, I look at one that's had a couple of conversations. So here's the email category, like that's a main email, and these are the actual emails, of which there are two. So I go in there and I see the reply right here. I see the first email. I see attachments that someone sent that are in the project. So this is the first email down here, and here is the second email that's a reply to that. And I can say that this issue is ongoing. I can set a due date. I could mark it as private. In this case, I actually connected it to an RFI through Autodesk Build, or again, to an issue right here. And I could generate the issue from here or attach it to an existing issue that's already in play. And again, I can go back and look at another email here. And this one has, again, two replies. It always goes G core, which I think is general correspondence. And then it's email number 3, 1. And then if there's a response to it, it's email number 2. So you could completely work in Outlook and just CC the system on the emails, or you could actually generate an email that you send out. I could reply. And again, I can invite these people, but I could actually now include, anyone in the project here, right? So I have the ability to, extend this to, others in the project and so on there if I need to, or bring in a new person that's outside the project to that email. But now I see all my emails, and then I can filter. That's the other part about this, right? It's really important. I can find all the emails that have been sent by me. So I can go in there and pick, Jeremy, myself, any email that was sent by me or anyone else. So I can go to Scott here, and yeah, so all emails that are from me, which all of them were from me right there, are all emails that go to a certain recipient here. Or I could get down to show me all the emails that are still open. So now there's only 2. Show me emails that are just ongoing, that we've started conversations on, but they're not resolved yet. And then are there any closed? Nope, all these emails are still open issues, if you will. Set it by a due date. I can come in and say, just show me correspondence that are overdue. One of them is overdue right there, as you can see. Or I can clear that. Or just by what date I sent it on, right? So there's all types of filtering capabilities that you have to find the emails. Just search right here. I can just do it, again, that search by a subject or an ID number if that's what I need to do. So this is a lot of, capabilities here. So now you start really seeing that ABC Pro is Autodesk BIM Collaborate Pro is really a project management solution. It's not just for sharing your models. You have, in summary here, you have all your documents and docs, not just the design models. You have your design models here. You have all your emails here, and although I'm not talking about this today, you have your meeting minutes, and every meeting that you've ever had in this project can be stored here in all your meeting minutes and responses. And just like correspondence, you can take a meeting minute and assign those questions and things to people, to issues, and so on. That's another key thing here, is that so many things in Collaborate Pro can be connected to other things. So again, especially when you go to Collaborate Pro, you get docs, and that's a good tool right there with issue communication. You get the BIM Collaborate Pro. Now you're sharing your model seamlessly with everyone. You have your own secure project. You can track all your emails, track all your meetings, pretty much everything you really need to manage a project are all in this kind of one place. So again, just a really powerful solution now for, again, project management. So we have all that stuff in the cloud right now. And it's still really useful. There's always a few things you might want to do beyond what are in that particular, in those tools that Autodesk provides there. So to kind of fill that in and where we saw the gaps and extra features that people we wanted, about 11 years ago, we started with this tool called IMAGINiT Clarity. And it was a locally based product that you would install on your network, and you'd dedicate computers to it, and you would use it to run tasks and move data around. And honestly, we were doing what BIM Collaborate Pro does now before Autodesk was doing it. So with Revit Server, you could have different offices connected to each other and connect through Clarity. Now, of course, Collaborate Pro came out, didn't need to do that anymore. But we had a whole host of other things in Clarity for automation and also analytics and making sure that your projects are healthy and such. So we had that what we call the on-premise version of Clarity. But now last year we introduced something called Clarity Cloud. And the nice thing about Clarity Cloud is a software as a service. You didn't need to invest in any technology at all. But because of that, we were limited in the tasks that we could run, because we could only use Autodesk Forge and we could only do certain things. And there's like a dozen or so tasks that we could perform, which were still valuable. But again, we just couldn't do all the full functionality that a full version of Clarity could do. But it was nice because you just host you just connect it to your Collaborate Pro project. You don't need to invest in any technology to pull up a web portal just like Collaborate Pro, and you create a project in there and you just pay as you go. If you don't have a project in there, you don't pay for it. And then you just pay for however many processing hours you go. So it's a very low cost to get into, very low risk, right? But again, still limited, right? And another limit too was that the servers that Autodesk gave us to run processes on were only 32 gigabytes and didn't have video cards. So we were limited in the size of project that you could process in Clarity Cloud. So if you needed a 64 gigabyte computer to open your models, you couldn't use Clarity Cloud because it couldn't handle that. Well, what we've just recently introduced now is what we're calling the Clarity Cloud Hybrid. So you still start with the Clarity Cloud, so there's no initial setup there, very low cost. And then what you can do is you can designate 1, 2, 3, as many computers as you want locally to Clarity, and use that for local task processing. Thus, you'll be charged just per project, $50 a month per project. And then if you're running all your tasks locally on your local task server, that's unlimited, no charge, because you're not using any of our time. And it's low cost to you, because what a lot of firms have now started to look at with this option was, hey, I'm just going to take my computer. I'm going to set it that when I leave for the day, I'll leave it on, and I'll let Clarity use my computer at night to run all these tasks and use my credentials. I don't need to get a whole new set of licenses for Clarity or anything like that. I can just set my computer to run these tasks at night. And other firms go, we're going to get a dedicated computer. We're going to put it in the server closet. We're going to give that computer a license of Revit and Collaborate Pro and create a new account for that and attach it to the project. That way you can run tasks 24/7 on it. You don't have to run them just at night. But again, this can be a very low-cost way to get into Clarity, see if it's right for your firm, your smaller firm. It's a very low cost to get into that collaboration space or that automation space, right? And it also has access in both the cloud version and the full version to the model health and things like that, right? So let me just quickly show that. So right over here, I go to Clarity Cloud. You would just log into our portal, you will create an account, you give your company a name. And in this case, what I have done here is I've connected a computer in my office here to this as a task process, and I've set it to run only at night. Now, if I look at this project over here, this is a cloud-based project. So Clarity Cloud only works with ABC Pro projects, so they have to be in the cloud, not local. And I go to definitions right now, and this is our original version of Clarity Cloud could only do these ones here, the ones that have little cloud symbols. So what's that, a dozen or so tasks. So we could, create PDFs, extract, AutoCAD IFC DWGs. We could do a Revit transmit. We could trigger the publish. That's an extremely popular command. For Clarity Cloud, a lot of firms are looking into it just for the automating of the publish as often as you want. Because right now in Collaborate Pro, you can only schedule a publish once a week. I could come in here with this task and have my models published every day at noon and create that task. And then I would come over here and, well, which models would I like to publish that are in the cloud, right? So I only want to publish I'm the architect, so I only want to publish the architectural model. So I go right there to that one, and that's the one I'm going to publish. And it publishes that every day at noon. And I could create another task and publish it at 5 p.m. too, as many as you want. So a huge thing are scheduling a PDF extraction every night from all my projects, the same process. I would go to definitions and I would be able to pick from that. But I only have these few, right? Now I also have the model metrics for this version too, so that's nice, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Well, with the hybrid option, so I have my local computer in my office that I'm using during the day, but at night I let Clarity use it. So from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., Clarity has access to my computer. So I don't have to buy a new computer. I don't have to give it any licenses. And right here, Now when I go to definitions, because I told this project to use both cloud and a local server, I now get almost all the tasks that we can do in the full version, the local version of Clarity, can now be done because these are being done locally. And because you're using your own local computer, if your models are really large, like they require a 64 gigabyte computer to open, and that's what your computer is, that file size limitation is also gone, and the speed will be greatly enhanced because you're using your computer and with a video card. PDFs will be extremely fast and so on. We can now extract other things like from Navisworks and so on. Almost like I said, we can run Dynamo scripts on your cloud models now. We can run all the collaboration. I can publish. I can back up the data from your cloud system, from your model to another cloud area and so on. So, again, a really, powerful tool, a really nice option here, very low cost to get in, and gives you the ability to run all these tasks. And if you start maxing out one computer with the task you're running, you can get a second one going for relatively inexpensive task server license and so on. Now, again, once you start getting over, 15 or so projects in the cloud, or I should say in Clarity Cloud, at that point in time, you might want to start looking at the full version of Clarity, which would probably be more cost effective. But this is a great way to try Clarity out at very low cost, and again, it's a great way to be very productive, have that power of that local server that maybe you only have the one, that's fine, yet you can do all these things and schedule all these tasks. And like I said, like the full version of Clarity, another thing that we've done here is that we have built in the ability to look at metrics. So now I can rate my models. I can see my model score is right here. I can see if they're in compliance with the rules that I've established in my company. Green means I'm in compliance. Yellow means that I haven't broken the rule, but I'm getting close, and red means I've broken the rule. So now I can kind of be notified when I look at the screen, are any of these models I have unhealthy? So this model is only getting a 69. That one's not too good either, and neither is this one. So my structural, my MEP, and this one here are pretty much all having the same scores. They're not really doing very well. They're kind of a low score there. And I can go to graphs if I just want to look at the history of a metric, right? So I could pick a specific model out of my list. So I look at my main architectural model right there. And then I can come in here and I could say the number of views not on sheets, and I can view that. So right here, I can see that it started at 8, and we're only up to about 10 right now. So that's pretty healthy, right? I could look at, the number of warnings or, the line styles, all types of things in here that I can basically look up, right? So number of warnings in a project, I want to check that. Okay, this project's doing pretty well. It's pretty much just at 7, right? Now, what if I take a look at another model that's in this environment, my MEP model? Let's view that one. And this one here only has, yep, that's a file size, sorry. Meant to say number of warnings, that would help, wouldn't it? There we go. So this one here has 41 warnings in it. Still not too bad, but I might be a little concerned. So again, you have full access to all those metrics in Clarity Cloud here. And you have access to those tasks. It's very easy to get into and start up. Takes a few minutes really to set up the cloud full version of Clarity. And if you want the Clarity hybrid, we have a small service to help do a little training on how to use it best and set up your local server, but it's really not this intensive thing at all. It's really fast to get into. Within a day, 4 hours or less, we get you set up and running and you're good to go. So again, really nice tool that we've created that integrates fully with the Autodesk Cloud and just extends the capabilities of your digital projects delivery there. So Joe, I think I pass it over to you now.
Yeah, so, well, as it says, what now? If we look at the collection of things that Scott's gone through, it's a lot of the more recent enhancements to BIM Collaborate Pro, BIM 360, whatever name you want to throw at it. Not everything, but it's trying to give you an idea of what types of things might have been recently added to the system that you might have known about a little bit, needed to know a little bit more about, or just trying to work through and understand what it exists. You've got some knowledge about that now. Some knowledge about what's IMAGINiT doing to try and extend on the capabilities that are there in the Autodesk Cloud, of just being able to connect another service to it to start automating various processes, like Scott was going through, generating PDFs, extracting Navisworks files, extracting DWG files from Revit, performing Dynamo or AutoCAD script based tasks, all sorts of crazy things, building on the capabilities that are there to, with the intent of freeing time on your schedule to do things that are more important than these repetitive, time consuming, necessary things, but it doesn't have to consume your attention to be able to get it done. Obviously, there's going to be a piece in there of saying, well, yes, come talk to IMAGINiT and see which one of these things we can do for you to make your lives a little bit better. But if you go to the next slide, it's really just that idea of identifying, of all the things that we saw here, are there places where you'd like a little bit deeper information on something about ABC Pro, something about Clarity Cloud Hybrid, to be able to be more effective in what you're doing. Letting IMAGINiT be that missing piece of the puzzle to get between you and the successes that you know you can get to, know you should be having. It's more effort than it ought to be to get to that point. Just leveraging us for that. It could be something as simple as just a conversation about some of these items. Maybe it is getting into more complex services. Maybe it's just as simple as setting up a Clarity environment. One of the things we've got coming out of this that's going a little bit deeper, if you go to the next slide, is a health check services that we're announcing for the Autodesk Cloud to be able to go through, and we're just, you can see a BIM Collaborate Pro health check to understand how are you using things today, identify where are there places that you would gain significant enough benefit to worry about it, to use those new features, and then work with you on enabling those things. So if you've got any questions, you've got any curiosity about these items, let's go ahead and reach out to us. Get a question out there of what can I do to help out with using my BIM Collaborate Pro environment that I'm already paying for to its greatest advantage, and set yourself ahead of the game.